Hey everybody, it's that time. Welcome, 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 welcome. I am Eric, your host for today, and I have with me not Donovan, but Matt. You there? You with me today?
Hey, I'm here. Oh, I love you. You're bringing the energy today. You're pepped up. You're psyched up, dude. It's Friday. I'm psyched. I'm ready for this. Look at this. We got layout in the background already, starting off hot.
We're
And
already we're always, got something cooking in the background, don't we?
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, SketchUp Live Day, Layout Live Day today. So I'm looking forward to it. Let us know in the chat where you're coming in from. Tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Michigan, the Great Lakes state. And
And
Eric, you're out in
I'm out
California,
in
is that right?
California. Yeah, I'm about the Central Coast. It is cloudy today, so it feels like I know we've got some people from Vancouver, some from Portland, some people that are regulars out there. Hopefully, you get some more sun. Maybe I get your clouds today. So, but hey, we're bringing the heat. We're bringing the sun right here with Layout and SketchUp.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. Your bright, sunshiny face.
that's right. That's right. I need to smile more. They say I need to. I get told I need to smile more, but then it feels fake. So listen, I'm smiling on the inside. Everyone out there, don't worry. I love it. I'm happy to be here. So Matt, thanks for co-hosting with me, and everyone, thanks for joining. I know people are trickling in right now, so we are just going to get right into it. So let's do this. I'm going to shrink myself down because unless we have any big announcements, Matt, any big things we need to get off the plate, otherwise I'm going to just roll right into what we're doing today.
Let's get into the meat. I love it.
Let's get into the meat. All right, here we go. Shrink my head.
We have people from England, Philadelphia, Mexico, Houston, New Mexico, Texas. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending your Friday with us.
Yep, definitely. Good to see y'all. And if you're tuning in again from LinkedIn or from X or from Facebook, if you have any challenges with the stream, always, always, always head over to YouTube. That's kind of like the most stable version of the platform. But as far as I know, we'll take you from wherever you're from. Um, so, why are you here? Why are we here? I'm glad to have you here, but hopefully you're here because you want to learn a little bit about layout. Now, let's see here. Where do we start? This is the challenge with these streams, because these aren't like we kind of move around a little bit. This is fun. It's I don't want to say that we're going to completely come up with stuff from scratch today, but we are going to do design diagramming. So what that means is that we're going to do a little bit of experimenting. We're going to do a little bit of exploring. We're going to try some stuff and we're going to kind of see what feels right. And then of course we're going to be going back and forth between SketchUp and Layout because you can't really do everything in layout without a great SketchUp model to begin with. So we're going to start there. So I'm going to use that as segue. Matt, while people are trickling in, if there's any comments or any shout outs, bring them in, and then I will start by switching over to SketchUp.
A lovely segue. And what good is a good segue if not pointed out? So props to you. But yes, we have New York, we have Ivory Coast, Connecticut, Brazil, Vancouver, Washington, Essex, UK, Vietnam. Hello, everybody. Woo! Everybody's here psyched to get not only the 3D, but the 2D too. You always bring them in with the layout. You get the layout streams. We got a lot of support, a lot of traction on this stream already before it started. People are always hungry to get those nice looking documents.
That's right. So for me, there's a fine line, and I'm just gonna kind of give you my thought process a little bit here. Obviously, it's gonna trickle out as we go. But for me, when I think about going into layout, like my job isn't to create construction documents. I'm not sending this to a contractor. So I stay with stuff we create for the SketchUp team stays a little bit more on the marketing side, but it also stays on the kind of inspirational side. So for me, I want to kind of hint at construction documentation, but I really want to kind of play around a little bit more with aesthetics because that's what I like to do is to create drawings that are really like kind of impactful, whether they inspire somebody, they excite somebody, or they just say, oh, how did you do that? There's a curiosity bit about, oh, you could do that in layout? That's cool. So that's what we're going to do today. We're not going to go and create a full construction document set. So anybody who wants to go and create a detailed schedule or something like that, probably not going to get to that level of detail. So hope that's okay.
Yep, that's next week. Aaron will be running through a complete construction document set.
So the other thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go into too much detail about this model. You've already seen it. Some people who have upgraded to 2024, you'll get it in the welcome window. That was why we built it. Of course, we used it for some demos and for some other things. But I just did one of our normal YouTube videos that trickle out that kind of gave the backstory about how and why this model kind of came into existence. So because I've already done that, I'm going to say go watch that there. And we're just going to pick up from there, and we're going to move into what is it going to take from this point on to get this model layout ready. So let's do this. Let's do this. And I would love your questions. Please, 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 if you got a question, why did you do it that way? How did you do it? I don't do it that way. I do it a different way. Bring all that stuff in, because I love the pushback too. Like, even if I say something wrong, or if there's a better way to do it, let me know. Let's have that conversation as we go.
Nice.
All right.
The communication lines are open for sure. Give us a call. We're taking your calls. 1-800-SketchUp. But also, we do have one question in the chat here. Hope we can give some tips to speed up layout. I'm sure you'll get into your optimization.
Yeah.
Probably once you get over to layout, but something to keep in your head that people are looking for.
Great. There we go. There were some questions. We'll touch on that. So one thing I want to do is look at the layout style. Now, we all know that sort of the easiest way to do a layout document to me is to click. If you didn't see what I'm doing, it's view. Another way to find it, I have the little icon, but view. You can go face style, and sometimes I mix up. Sometimes I'll say monochrome, but what I really mean is hidden line. So hidden line basically just wipes out, makes everything black and white. And the reason why hidden line works really well as a default style for layout is because it is black and white. A lot of people don't have the money for, or I should say, not that they don't have the money, they maybe don't want to spend the money to do colored construction documents. Even though I think adding that color does add depth and richness and stuff like that. So the easiest thing to do would be create a style around the hidden line. But I also know that, we're not going to print. We're going to keep this digital. So let's go ahead and bring some color into this. So I'm going to open up my styles panel, and let's see here. I want to make sure that this is sort of my default. I only have one style in this model, which is just the default color with AO with ambient occlusion turned on. So that's where we're starting from. So what do I need to do? Styles panel, we got to go to edit first. So you can see it's been a while since I've been in layout, so I'm going to be doing some thinking. So we've got a few different options here. The first thing we can do is we can change the color of our edges, but maybe what I want to do is actually go back to that monochrome, or that, see, I just did it, monochrome, hidden line, and then I want to come back in and do something like that's kind of blueprint style. So you can change the color of the edges, and I need to find out, oh man, see, this is a good learning opportunity. When you make a mistake, what I need to do is find, Matt, do you know it? Do you know the RGB values for our Trimble blue?
I do.
Oh, see.
Well, not the RGB, but I know the hex.
Oh, you know the hex. Should we use, what should we use? I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to kind of use this as a learning opportunity. I'm going to pretend like I don't know, like I don't have you and your wealth of knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in our logo here, and this is just temporary. I just want to grab this blue. And so I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, and you can see it's not the normal eyedropper. If you just hit the paint bucket and you hold the modifier, see how you get this kind of big eyedropper? Well, here, if you go to your Windows palette, and speaking of Windows, how does this function on Windows? Because it's just this tiny little eyedropper that almost looks like it's hiding on Mac. Is that the same? That's the same. I think Windows has the same thing. I just don't know if it's in the same place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that blue, and then you can see that's what I did. You can see I just changed the lines to that blue. And if I want to save that blue for some reason, I can drag that blue and drop it. I think I already have it. How do you? Okay. I think I already have it. Yeah.
We'll just sample the screen color. So do you have to watch out for like what your shadows are set to? Will that affect what the eyedropper pulls out?
Yeah, but in this case, you can see that's a great question. I've already, I think by default no, I haven't. So what you can do is you can always take out the shadow settings by going to what's called like 92, but I haven't exploded this image, so I don't even know if it's accepting light. I don't even have my shadows turned on. It looks to be the same. So what I could do is just double check that, just make sure that there's no shadows that are affecting that value. And it looks to me, I think those two look the same. But good thing to check. You're right, because I think it's looking at sampling the screen. So I'm going to go with that. The other thing too is I have to decide whether I want the AO or not. I might have a reason why I want both. So what I'm going to do is before I do anything, I should create a new style, and I'm just going to call this blueprint. I'll just call this blue. Non-AO. We're just diving right into it. If anyone's joining the stream and you're going right into like creating styles, that's what we're doing today. Going right in. And then I want to do one with the AO. And again, I will tweak this. We're going to kind of play with this once we get into layout. We're going to kind of see what we think is starting to look good. And then I want to make sure that I've got, there we go. And then now let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm inside the building, but let's go ahead and look at this from a few different perspectives. So if I go to call it blue non-AO, there's a couple things that aren't really working for me. Number one is I've got this blue sky. And if I'm wanting to create almost like a blueprint style, let's go ahead and knock that out. So I'm going to go back and edit that again. In fact, it may make sense that I delete the AO version because I can always just create a copy. I want to get everything right first before I start duplicating stuff. So let's go into the background settings. Let's turn the sky. Do we want the sky? Yeah, let's leave the sky on. Oh no, wait. You just have to listen to me talk to myself here. This is hard.
Talk through it. I love the process.
If we do the background, here's the thing. If we do the background blue and you have the lines blue, look what happens. It all disappears. So we don't want to do that. We want to do a version where we keep that white background and then we keep the blue lines. But we could look at, if we were going to do a section cut, we could look at creating a blue ground plane. Let's see what that does. And then I'll show you why, is that if we go set our camera to perspective, now all of a sudden you can see that in perspective, you can see we have a white sky, which might be something that is kind of cool, look like this. But then if we were to go to, if I turn, I have a keyboard shortcut for this, but if I toggle that to, if I toggle parallel projection on, then you get this blue background. What do you think about that? If you're in axonometric, right?
Yeah,
Sky is white.
cool.
Yeah.
A little contrast going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you did in parallel projection though, you could see in perspective, everything disappeared. That could work. Okay, let's do that. Now what happens if we turn shadows on? If we turn our shadows on, of course we have to go back into our shadow settings and double check that we actually have our lighting set. So we can actually bring in like the shadows, or like the glazing, it has transparency. So now the shadows aren't set to a style though. So I have to probably wait on the shadows because right now I'm just looking at like what kind of styles do I want to do. And then what we're going to do is, and then we're going to set some scenes. Because right now I just have like my 4 default scenes, like our hero imagery that we used. So I think I might have to come back and look at shadows here in just a minute. So, all right, let's do one style. Oh, you know what I was thinking about? What if we inverted it and we made our face style Trimble blue and our lines white? Do you think that would almost look like,
inverted, like Top
Should we
Gun.
try inverting it? Let's try that. So what I'm gonna do is
That's like a true blueprint, right?
I want to leave this one alone, but now if you come over here to front face style, you can do that same blue. And then I want to make sure that I'm adding a new style for this one. And then, oh wait. Oh no, I don't need to do that. I can just do background, right? I can just do background. And the reason why is because I go to edges and then all the same, we're just going to switch them to white. There we go. That's sort of like, didn't Tyson just do one that kind of like this? His is probably better than mine. I should go back and watch his stream.
Yeah, that looks cool.
How's that look? That looks kind of cool. So that's like a true blueprint style. And I don't know if I want to use that one or not. Right now, like I said, I'm just going to start by kind of testing some stuff, and we're going to go, once we get into layout. The reason why I want multiple options is because you're going to see in a few minutes what we're going to do is do stacking viewports. So what we can do is we can combine styles. And so what I want to do is just kind of play with what I think looks cool. And then what we're going to do is see why in just a minute. Unfortunately, we could work backwards, but then you'd be seeing the finished product and saying, okay, why'd I do it like that? So right now we have 3. We have the default style, which is just blue sky and colored and textures. We have the, and I'm going to change this one because I have 2 different colored blues. Speaking of Trimble blue, Matt, when you said sample, I sampled one from, I think, one of our marketing guides, which is this kind of has a little bit of a greenish blue. And then the one that came in from the logo has slightly it's like it's almost like a more of a royal blue.
Okay.
So,
This one looks wrong to my eye, but hey, it's still blue.
does this one look wrong? Should we go with the one that I sampled from the logo? I'm going with this one. It's close enough. We're going to say
Yeah,
this
whatever
is,
you like.
yeah, I do like this one better. I like that little tiny bit of green in it anyway. So there's that one, and then there's this one, and there's that one. I think that's going to be enough to get us started. So maybe what we do is we just kind of pause on styles, and then we think about, we go move into layout, because we're going to have to come back into SketchUp anyway, if we have to make any changes to the styles. You can override styles in layout, but you cannot create them, right? You can either choose from your default styles, or you can choose from your in-model styles. So this is why I'm doing this now rather than doing it later, because otherwise we're just going to have to come right back and do this. All right, so cool. I'm going to save this, because we're going to need to save this, because layout, I'm going to start from scratch. So what I want to do is come over here and say send to layout.
Send it.
I haven't done anything with scenes, right? I haven't set up anything. We're going to do this on a tabloid. We're in the United States. We use this weird system called imperial units. Okay, I think that's a glitch, that red screen. I've seen that. It may be my computer, so just something I'm having the team look into.
Good. I'm glad it's not just me. I was like, oh, I'm seeing red. This is a bad sign.
I know. If we're seeing
I'm
red
toast over here.
If I'm seeing red this early in the stream, we're kind of in trouble. I have to decide though, because when you send it to layout, shouldn't it give you an option? Oh, it did. I want to do that over again. No, I don't want to do that over again. Sometimes when you do a new document, it'll let you choose from templates. And I've done videos in the past where I've got a template already kind of set up. So let me see if this one works. See, it did it again. You're seeing
Colin asked what version you're on. I believe you just installed the patch version, right?
Yeah. All right. Yep, I'm on the latest. So the reason why I'm starting with my own template is because I've got some stuff in here, like some titles and some north arrows, and I've got some auto text already set up. So that's kind of cool. You can see it already knows what date it is. It already knows how many pages there are. So what I mean by auto text, for those that are brand new to layout, if you double click in there, you can see that I didn't actually type the page name. It's going to grab the name from the pages that are already set up in the template. So if I change this, instead of saying SketchUp release, I might call this 2024 layout design diagrams. Diagrams, right? And then what you do is you'll notice that, again, I didn't have to type it into, it just picks up whatever the page name is. So if we're going to do a plan, perspective, elevation, whatever we're going to do, it's just going to pull from all that auto text, which is kind of cool. So let's do that. Let's paste that model in here. So now I have the model in here, and now we get to kind of look at overriding the style. So let's grab, we're just going to kind of do like an intro page. I just kind of want to warm up and show you what the process is of stacking viewports before we do something a little bit more complicated, where we're going to look at sort of the canopy. I want to kind of explore the canopy, but let's just do kind of like a little warm up. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Thanks, Matt. That is the answer. Yes, that was the right answer. Because if you said no, I wouldn't know what to do.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Okay, standard views. I don't want a standard view. What I want to do is look at the scenes that I have in my model. I want to go with this 1-point perspective. I'm just going to kind of play. Let's just kind of play with this for 1 second. So here I've got my default style, which is sort of everything turned on, all the colors, all the textures and stuff like that. So if I make a copy of this viewport, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it right in on top. But first thing I want to do is go into my style. So for this model, you'll notice I've got my model selected. So under in model styles, under the SketchUp model panel, I can go in model styles, and you can see the two styles that we just set up right there. So I've got the blue non-AO, and I didn't title them properly. One of them would be like blueprint or inverted, and the other one would be blue lines, but hey, it's okay. I'm gonna go with that. So now one thing you'll notice is that I used PNG textures for the plants. So if I were to go with this style, I would lose my plant material unless I would bring in the full geometry. But when you have lots of it, as you know, when you have tons of tiny little leaves and you want to go into layout and you want to use hybrid mode, sometimes that's where it's like, you really need to think, do I need that level of detail? Do I need all of those edges to be vectorized? Probably not. So in this case, I opted for performance and used textures instead. So if I paste that viewport back in place, you'll notice I've got two viewports. So I've got one blueprint style and one sort of my color AO style, and they're sort of sitting on top of each other. So this is where we get to have a little bit, this is where I said we get to kind of play around a little bit. If your tag structure is organized really, really well, then you should be able to turn off some things. Like if I turn the ground off, and I need to do one more step, by default under style, the background is showing. So you can see that when I turn the ground off, I couldn't see the blueprint style underneath. So I have to turn the background of my one on top off, and then now you can see through it. It becomes transparent. So if I turn
very important for the stacking viewports.
If I turn the building off, yeah, very important. So if I go, what else do I want to turn the building off? I turn cars, context. I have to choose people. Ooh, I want to turn the interiors off. That's kind of cool that you can see the interior that's colored, but the problem is with no building, now it looks like the interior is actually outside of the building, which would be not where it belongs. It belongs in the interior.
It would just be an exterior then.
That's true. One thing I think I'm goofed on, so this is a good reason to come back into SketchUp, because I may have taken these vines here. They sit within the building. So they're gonna, if it's a texture, then it's gonna disappear. So for this image, it may be worth coming in and taking just that plant texture. It is on a plant tag actually, but it's in the building, right? So if you turn the building off, it overrides everything that's inside, that's nested inside, turns off. So I may want to, just for this sake of this drawing, let's see, double check. See, it's on a plant tag, but the building itself overridden that. So if I save that and I pop back over here into layout, and if it doesn't auto, sometimes it auto refreshes, and if it doesn't, I just say update model reference, and fingers crossed, if this worked, my vines pop back up. So there they are.
Beautiful.
Okay. But here's what I want to do. What's the problem? That's kind of like putting my teacher hat. Matt, what's the problem with having two PNG textures on top of each other? One of them in hidden line style and one of them in shaded with texture style.
It's not transparent anymore. The hidden line one shows up as just a big block.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the blueprint one, and we're going to make sure that we turn plants off of that one, right? Because we want our transparency in this case. Now, if you're using full geometry, it's not going to matter. But then, like I said, if you go into something like vector mode, then you might say, oh, I'm not using full geometry plants in vector mode. So this is kind of cool. Just as a warm-up exercise, you can see that was pretty quick, a pretty quick start. If you're getting some doubled up lines, you may want to, hang on, let me see. Preserve scale. Oh, I kind of goofed. I want to preserve the scale of this. The reason why is because you'll notice when I moved the viewport, the SketchUp model shifted. So you definitely want to make sure when you're stacking viewports that both your one on top and your one below have the setting preserved scale set. So that's under the SketchUp model panel, preserve scale, because now otherwise, see when I change the viewport, see how it's not, the model scale is not changing, which is cool because then I can decide, well, hang on, do I want to show margins? Do I want to go full bleed? Do I want to go all the way to the edge of the page? Maybe I do want to go to the edge of the page like that. So with that said, now you can go in and turn off on the one underneath. You can turn off things like I want to turn off anything that's colored. So furniture, I don't want to see the furniture, maybe the people. Maybe I want to see the blueprint people, or no, maybe I only want to see my colored people. I don't know. So last thing I want to do is I want to kind of push back the blueprint style a little bit because I want the color to pop more. Now, I'm going to pick on layout a little bit. Is one thing we don't have yet, and I'm going to keep kind of gently prodding our development team, is to have transparency or opacity, depending on how you define it, of SketchUp viewports. So for example, like this viewport here, there's no slider that says, I want to fade this viewport back. And I think when you're stacking viewports, that's a really cool. What do you think about that, Matt, idea?
Having opacity control on viewports? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
On viewports, because you have it on shapes. You have it on shapes and colors, but we don't have it on viewports. Can't do it to your model. So until then, I'm going to just kind of do a hack, which I don't even like that term. I'm going to create a layer, so you can see it's right here above my head, and I'm going to call this a fade. I'm just going to create a fade layer, and then what I'm going to do is have two SketchUp models, and there's a good reason why you might want to do this. You might have one, I'm going to call this below. So I have a layer for SketchUp model below, and I have a layer for SketchUp above. And I don't even need to say model because I know what SketchUp means. SketchUp means that it's a SketchUp viewport. So I'm going to just save myself some time and not even have to write model. So now what I do is I move this colored one, move to SketchUp above, right? So just to see if that worked, I can toggle that. Nice thing about that is I can toggle it on and off. I don't have to keep doing that. Shift the viewport over, select the one underneath, bring the viewport back. If it's on different layers, then you can lock them. The other thing to do is you can lock it. So I don't have to, I'm not going to move this one. Can you hear me clicking? With that said, I can make sure that this one is set to SketchUp below, which it is. So then on this fade layer, we go into shape style, and we're going to create a new one. We're going to go rectangle. That's actually not the color that I want, but you get the idea. I'm going to change the color afterwards, after I've drawn it. Fill, I'm going to go white, and this is where you have that opacity slider. So this is where I get to control the amount of information that shows. So let me put my SketchUp above back on, and I'll zoom in a little bit for you folks, because just so you can see that. Oh no, Matt. Why are the edges of my PNG texture showing?
I don't know.
Because they're not here. Oh, or are they? They are. Oh, that's bad modeling.
Sneaky.
All right, it's going to go in
this model.
That's going to go in my performance review. Extensions, hide all edges. Oh, you want to know why? It's not exploded. No, it is exploded. Wait, hang on. Okay. No, there's no edges.
Yeah, it looks edgeless.
This is weird. I might just have to ignore it, but I don't like things. When something doesn't work as expected, I kind of get, you can see I get a little flustered. So let's do this. Update SketchUp model. You saw that there it was. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I forgot to hide the edges, you know.
Don't shoot them. No, don't shoot them. I'm sure something was wrong with the program.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's
you
always
did everything right.
Whenever something goes wrong, it's always a bug or something. It's never user error. Thanks, Matt, for calling, supporting me on that one. Okay,
I'm on your side.
So the cool thing about having this two SketchUp, the stacked viewports on different, here, I'm gonna make the chat sort of slightly smaller just because, there we go. So you guys can all still see your comments. The cool thing about having those on separate layers is that I can then I can just lock the above layer and I can control that fade, right? So I can see them both. So this is call it full saturation. And then this is just kind of kicking it back to 50%. And then this is almost disappearing completely. So you get the idea. I don't want to beat this idea to death, but that is sort of the process that we're using, which is going to be this idea of this almost like a sandwich. You've got two SketchUp models, and then you have an opacity layer in between. And of course, we can stack as many as we want. I only use two because I think two will do most of the heavy lifting for us.
Yeah, funny that you say viewport sandwich. Nick used that same term a little bit ago on YouTube, so that's funny.
Was that Nick Sonder?
No, Nick Mason.
Nick Mason. Oh, okay.
Viewport, transparent shape, viewport. But yeah, no, I like the look that it gives. Gives you some kind of separation and stuff. And what's nice, it seems like it would work really well for like a kind of existing and proposed scenario. Or just you want to highlight a particular design aspect. So yeah.
All right.
This is cool.
All right, so that's it. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just get rid of these. This is my template. I'm just gonna get rid of the pages that came with it because we're gonna start just do some from scratch. The nice thing about having the template starting is just it gives me some text and it gives me some auto text and stuff. It's already in there. So anyway, because I've already covered that in other live streams. So let's take it from here. Where do we want to go from here? That's the question I want to ask. It's not the $1 million question, but it is a good question because here's the reason why is because, like I said, we may have to do a little bit more work in SketchUp. For example, when I talked about shadows, we need to save shadows to scenes. So if I want shadows to show, I need a scene to show it. The second thing we need sections. So we're going to be cutting. Here's the reason why is because if I want to focus on this canopy here, you can see that it was intentionally designed to be in the courtyard, so you have an experience of almost like tension and release, right? You get a peekaboo preview, and then you get like sort of a big reveal. But the cool thing about that is it works for some of our marketing or hero imagery that we've used, but it doesn't work for if you want to tell just the story of the canopy, because it's kind of hidden, right? So that means that we have two ways to do this. We can set up a scene where we get rid of one of these buildings. Like for example, if I just hide one, using keyboard shortcut there to hide that, and then I'm going to turn my context off, although I'm not too worried about tags because you can tag override. What I'm worried about right now is visibility, like because I don't have that building on its own tag. So I would actually have to hide it and then save that to a scene, and that would preserve the visibility state. So let's do that. So now I've got one where I want to save a scene where I've got only, probably don't want floating people. She maybe should have been inside of the building. So I'm actually going to hide her as well. Anybody else floating? Everybody else is grounded? Okay, let's continue. So one thing I want to do is I want to grab kind of a shot like this because what it does is it lets me see the canopy better. And then the second thing I want to do is I'm going to add another scene where we're going to use a section cut. So let's do that. So I'm just going to add a scene, and I'm not going to worry about the camera view. I'll fix that in layout. I just want to rename this one, and I'm just going to call this building hide for now. And if we need to set a particular view, like we can do that as well. So if I click on building hide, there it is, disappears. That's cool. Now let's do this. Let's go back and unhide that building. Probably should have done this the other way around, but that's okay. You get the idea. I want to show that there's a couple different ways to approach this. Second thing we want to do is cut a section. So I want to see inside of that courtyard. But I've already done one where we just get rid of the building and pretend it's not there. Tools, section plane. So I'm going to orient. I'm using my keyboard shortcuts, right? That's a quick way. It's nice when you're building. It's nice when your building is actually on the model axis, because then it's really easy just to orient. You can just use the keyboard shortcuts to orient that section cut. Looks like I've already got one in here. It's okay. I'll create a new one. So what I want to do is do something like this. I'm going to get rid of this one actually because I want to pretend like we're starting from scratch. So I want to use the one that we're creating. I don't want to accidentally use a different one. So here's an interesting style because we're cutting through the building, but we're also cutting through the canopy. So it makes me think for a second, well, wait a minute. If I toggle the section cut off, that building is blocking my view. Like let's say I like this view, or I like this view. Let's say I want to do like a really cool view here. Well, if I toggle, I'm cutting into the canopy, so that's something where I may like that or I may not. So I have to decide. Do you know what I mean, Matt? Like you can see because we're cutting, you're actually literally cutting through the columns of the canopy. So we don't get that sense that the canopy is actually sitting on top of, and the buildings get the section cut, but the canopy sits above that. Like if we want to do a stacked viewport. Yeah. So let's do styles. I'm going to add this one. I'm going to call this AO section. AO just stands for ambient occlusion, so I know that I have my ambient occlusion turned on. Let me double check to make sure I do have it on. I do have it on. It's depending on the view, you may want to, if you're zooming really far away, you may want to kind of push the intensity and the distance up. But if you're zooming, obviously if you're in really close to something, maybe dial that back down a little bit. So it's kind of like, I think about it like salt to taste. It's your preference. Matt, what do you think? Do you like kind of pushing it a little bit, or do you like it where it's like almost not there, it's super subtle?
All about a lot of spices, a lot
Yeah.
of salt, a lot of spice. Just give it to me spicy.
Yeah, Matt is he's got a spicy personality. So I'm going to go with your suggestion. Let's push it a little bit.
Now, I have a bland personality. That's why I need this spice in order to offset it.
Yeah. So what are we doing? What are we doing here? What we're doing is we're saving this section. So here's why we're saving it to a style. So now I can toggle, I should probably zoom out for this. Now I can literally, here I'm using a keyboard shortcut, so Shift S, that turns my section on and off. But the problem is when I go to layout, I can't do Shift S, you know what I mean? Layout doesn't recognize that. Layout's only gonna know whether I have a style set up. Because then what I can do is in layout, I can do a style override. And so I can go back and forth and choose different styles. So I want to do the same thing. I want to go Shift S, but I want to add a new style, and I'm just going to call this one blue. I'm going to rename this one to blue edges section, and then this one is going to be blue edges. Just blue edges, right? Because I don't need to say no section. I just means that if it doesn't have the word section in it. So section, no section. So everything else is the same in the style. That's why I wanted to get everything perfect in the style before I start duplicating styles. Because now if I go make a tweak to one, I have to go back and make a tweak to all of them. And I don't want to do that. So here I do the same thing. I turn that section, Shift S, turn that section on, I don't want to update. I want to add a new one, and I'm just going to call this blue faces. I almost called it Blue Monday. I'm a New Order fan. So blue faces, and I'm going to call this section. Make sure to update, and then I want to go back and just call this one blue faces again because I want to be consistent. So having a little bit OCD with like naming things is a really good thing, I think, because when you get into layout, it's going to make things way easier to find.
Yeah, good call. Nobody ever got frustrated for having proper naming conventions and model organization.
Ooh, I'm going to turn the background off on this one because I don't really, you tell me. Because if you have the sky, you see what I mean? Oh, unless you change the horizon color. What do you think? Do you think that looks cooler with the sky or without the sky? Because if you do the ground, you get that gradient, which actually is kind of cool in its own way. But if you take it off, you get like just pure line work. What do you think we should go with?
Let's do the line work one.
Just do pure line work for now? I can always go back and change it. So let me make sure that both of those, you can see the difference. So now I have to go back. See, now I'm making changes after I've saved all these styles. So I have to go back into each one and save each one. All right, so what I was going to say about the section cut part is that I have this section cutting on the outside of everything. But if I wanted to, I could take this same section, copy it, delete it, and I could go in, let's see here, let me switch styles. I think it might be easier for me to do this in just a colored style. So it may be better to actually go in to the buildings themselves, right? So you can see I'm in just the buildings group. And then I paste and place that section cut. Now this is totally a preference, because here's the thing: if I do that, what I get is, and Matt, this is where I like having a co-host because I can be indecisive sometimes. And so what I want to do is push back. Here, what we're doing is we're cutting through the buildings so that we're really telling this courtyard story, which I think is an important one to tell. But what we're not doing is cutting through the ground. So in a way, you can see that we're not cutting through the canopy itself. And if we want to cut through the canopy later, which we might want to, then we could always bring in a section cut and place it inside the canopy group. And then that way we can cut through the canopy, but we're not cutting through anything else. So maybe we just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I like it this way. Like the document that you are preparing is talking about the canopy, right, in the courtyard area. So it makes sense to sort of highlight that and have the buildings off to the side or behind those.
Okay. Thanks. Let's do that. And then if it's not working, we know what our option. We know we can go back and just say, oh no, let's cut through the whole thing. We can always do that. So one thing here, I mentioned it earlier, but this is before we go back into layout. This is also a chance for us to look at whether we want shadows on or off. So let's double check to see what shadows does to this style now that we're getting a little bit closer. We're cutting through the buildings and we know what our blueprint styles are. So if we create one here, shadows are on, but they're not showing because my lightness and darkness are down. Okay. So we could turn shadows off of the ground, but the problem is it's not the ground that they're showing. You can see the ground is over here. They're showing on my ground. So if you got rid of the ground completely, we could say shadows on ground, shadows off ground. And the reason why I say that is because we may not want them on the ground. But if we only use them for the elevation, let's do that. And I'm saying that because you can see that there's pros and cons to getting the shadows. We get a pattern that's going to show up, which could be on the canopy itself, which may or may not. It may be add some maybe messy details that we don't want. So let's go ahead and just kind of look at some options. And then I want to go back into layout because I know I want to make sure I'm keeping track of our time. So.
Oh, eagle-eyed viewer in the comments also noticed those people on the left side of the canopy on the fourth floor.
Yep.
Are the section cut kind of cut them so they're floating in the air right now.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, because what I did was, remember I said, let's put the section cut inside the building only. And by doing that, because these people aren't in the building, these people are in, they're just in a people group. So that's a good call. Thank you. Sometimes, I make mistakes on purpose just to see who's paying attention.
Yeah, good job.
Okay. So here we are now. In this case, what I'm going to do is just turn the plants off completely, because if we're going to stack the viewports and if we're in hidden line style, it doesn't help us to show that PNG texture. So I'm just going to make sure that whatever views I save myself the time. I can always overwrite it in layout, but let's go ahead and just get rid of that now. So I don't know. You tell me, Matt. Let's look at the shadows on and off. It is nice because it gives a little bit of differentiation on the window panels, because some of them have blinds in them, and the blinds are also a PNG texture. So I think the ones that are the blinds are the ones you can't see through, and then the ones that don't have the blinds are the ones you can see into the building. So of course you can make this really subtle, where it's just barely there. Maybe I'll zoom in just for you folks at home, so you can kind of see. It's just, you can make it as subtle or as sort of contrasted, as dark as you want. I think I would not go black like that. I think a subtle shadow. Don't you think that's cool? You can always change.
Yeah, agreed.
If you don't like the sort of lattice patterning that's on there, you may be able to sort of, in this case, that's the way the design is. But there may be an option just changing the direction of the sun. May be able to just change where those shadows fall. So let's go with that. We can always change it later. I want it just super subtle, just to give a little bit of that differentiation, a little bit of that gray that I think shows up, which I think is cool. Now here's the thing, because the shadows need to be saved to a scene. So I am going to add a new scene, and I'm going to call this elevation. Elevation shadows. And that way I know, I can still override stuff if I want. I'm in layout, but at least I know the shadow time of day and the lightness and darkness are the way that I want it. And then I can always, turn buildings and turn things on and off. Because here's the thing, is with this one, you can still, oh, wait, I need to make sure the shadows are turned on, don't I? And then I need to update this. See, with this one, you can still change styles, right? So we can still change the style, and it preserves all those shadow settings.
Yeah, very nice.
Okay, I'm asking myself because I'd actually forget sometimes. I sort of forget. Okay, cars, probably want to turn that off. I'm going to save myself the trouble. The ground, I'm going to keep the ground on so I know exactly where our ground plane is. And I'm going to go ahead and update that scene, save this, and we're going to pop back into layout. Let's create a new page. Now we have two choices. We can create a brand new page from scratch, or we can duplicate this page. So I'm just going to duplicate it because I have done a little bit of work. And what should we call this? We're going to call this section elevation for lack of imagination. And here's what's kind of cool. Now, I could take this viewport here, and because they're both the same scale, and because they're both stacked on top of each other, and they're both styled, I could lock my faded view, right? So I have only the two viewports. And I could change both of those to, well, user error. I need to update my SketchUp model first. So those new scenes that we just created and those new styles, they come in. We want those in. I don't think I need this right now. I'm going to close that. So to maximize this on the screen so you can see it. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and change the courtyard to elevation shadows. And for this page, I want to turn the fade off. Now, this is where you're probably thinking, what did you just do? You did something wrong. You're right, because I need to change the style. Right now we're looking at the side of the building. We're looking at the building is blocked. We're like inside of the building. What we need to do is change the style to show the section. So if we could do the AO section, or we could do, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna reset everything. I'm just gonna reset it all.
Wipe the slate clean.
We're just gonna wipe the slate clean because I clearly screwed something up. So let's go ahead and wipe that slate clean, and then let's start over from scratch on this one. So for this one, you can see what I did when I'm resetting it all those style overrides and all those tag overrides and all those little things that I did to get this first view, this one, all that stuff that I did to make this one look awesome, it actually kind of messed me up when I just copied that over and then changed scenes. So because we're elevation, quiz Matt here, should we set a scale? It's not really a quiz, maybe it's just a question. Should we do this to scale since we're in orthographic, or should we do this not to scale?
Yeah, let's do it to scale.
All right, Matt says let's do it to scale. That was the right answer. Good job, Matt.
Yes.
The question is what scale? So if you had to guess, this is an 11 by 17 page, and this is like a city block, probably about 350 feet wide long. What would you say the scale would be? What would, if you just guessed? We're in imperial, not metric. So sorry, metric folks. I know you'd use a different scale than we would use.
Oh, I was thinking in metric. Yeah, sorry, I can't do it in imperial.
Can't do it in imperial?
Yeah,
we're just guessing here. So let's see, anywhere between 1 inch equals, let's say 10 feet, and 1 inch equals 100 feet.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Pick. I'm asking you to pick one.
Okay, the 10 feet one.
You're gonna go with 1 inch equals 10 feet. Okay, let's go. Let's see what 1 inch equals 10 feet looks like. Okay, scale bust.
Boom,
okay, good job.
It.
I would have gone 1 to 50 because I would have, but that's too small. So in this case, we would have both been wrong. But that's okay. 1 to 20. It's not quite there. Let's try 1 to 30, and let's see if that gets the whole building. Gets the whole building. It's a little small, but hey, I want some wiggle room. Maybe I'm going to put some background context. Maybe I'm going to put some call outs and things like that. So let's go with that. Okay, so now we have to decide, Matt. I want to figure out where to place this thing.
The nice thing about me being like the client here, like the designer, is I don't have any idea what I want or what looks good. So I'm like a regular client.
Yeah.
Clients, of course, have very good taste.
And I also want to ask, to be honest, I don't want to just pick on you. I would ask, like if you're teaching in classroom, like you don't want the one person to always be answering every question because then all the other people aren't really getting the experience of having to think and answer. So if I was able to ask all the people in the chat, I would be calling people randomly, transom, and because everyone has their own experience and their own knowledge that they can share with us. I'd love to hear that.
So you're the kind of teacher who would just call on people randomly just to see if they're paying attention?
Totally. Okay. Yeah. So that's why my teaching reviews were always terrible. So let's go let's see here. You can see I'm just kind of toggling through the different styles that we set up. And I know that I want to, I kind of want the section cut for this one.
Sure.
But here's the thing. I also want to kind of show that I'm cutting a section. So this is where I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to grab a stroke. And for right now, I'm just going to use Trimble Red because we love it or hate it. I'm going to use this is SketchUp for Web Red. And I'm going to just kind of grab I'm tracing here. Oh, draft mode doesn't work because of this. I'm in raster mode. So what I want to kind of do is just kind of trace the building outline because I know that I'm cutting a section through it. You can see I'm fast. I'm flying a little fast and loose here.
Oh, we did have a question earlier about what plugin you were using to get the crayons there, or the colored pencils. That's just a Mac operating system color picker. So LayOut and SketchUp both use the default operating system color picker, which on Mac has the little colored pencil option. Windows doesn't have that, but so yeah, that's just
we get
the
that question.
default operating system one.
We get that question a lot. I use the crayons because I'm lazy and I just go with those are easy. But obviously you have sliders and you have a wheel, and then you also have you can save your own custom colors to a palette. So if I want to use just Trimble colors or whatever, I can just grab the Trimble palette.
Yeah, I end up using the little RGB sliders because then you can punch in the hex code. That's where I
spend
a lot of time.
So I'm going to leave that there for now, and we'll worry about styling it in a little bit. I think I want to shift this back up a little bit because it's a little bit too bottom heavy. And I also want to grab a nice fat line here, but I want to change the color of that to Trimble teal or Trimble, what do you call that? That looks more like cyan. Right, for like the section. I want like a heavy line for the section. And then I want to move in. I know that some of you are like, oh, you teased us with the canopy. We're going to do that. But here's the thing I want to do is I wanted to kind of, Matt, what do you think about, we talked before the stream about profiles and about how the canopy, if you turn profiles on the canopy, it kind of reads as heavy.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially with the background color matching the line color.
What would happen if we, just as a test, if we pop back into SketchUp really quick and then we go into the style settings and we turn our profiles off? Do you see the difference? Let me do that again, folks. If you didn't see that, profiles on, profiles off. Now I like the profiles on personally because what it does is it shows me the edges of round objects like the column. But when you zoom out, when we're working at 11 by 17 and you're pushing something really big down to something really small, the closer those lines get together, the heavier it's going to start to feel. So like when you zoom in like this, it's like, oh, profiles look pretty good. I'm going to create one. I'm going to create a new one. I don't really want to create that many styles, but I am. I'm going to, excuse me, call this no profiles. And then I'm going to do this again with the same one. So I'm just going to do this with the section cut one. That's the section cut. So I'm just going to duplicate that. And I'm just going to call this no profiles. And then if we end up using this blue kind of style, I don't know, maybe that one's okay. Let's see what that one looks like when it's white. See how it lightens the canopy quite a bit? So it may be worth the effort of just going in and just taking the time to. So this does go to show you like how awesome and powerful, different styles are, but it also goes to show you just how much kind of thought goes, almost like pre-thinking has to go into, well, is this going to work for my needs when I get into layout? Because if once you've done this once, and you say, oh, I know I don't want profiles. I know I need it to be this scale. I know I love Trimble. I need Trimble blue put in my palette, so I don't have to go sample it every time. These are the things that you just know. But when you're first venturing out, right, like anything, there's going to be some trial and error.
Yeah, and you can just go back and forth and update the model reference. So not that bad, but yeah, I mean, you can definitely see how having stuff saved or templates or something could speed you up if you're doing a lot of the same stuff over and over. Sven asks if you saved. Or when you last saved, I suppose.
Oh, hang on. I have to reset. I'm going to reset. It's been a few minutes. I'm going to save it. Thanks. What I'm going to do is, oh wait, this one, do you see the difference between, this is section. Which one were we on? We were using this color, right? Is that the one that we were going with? Or were we going with the blueprint style? We were going with that.
Yeah, we were on this one, yeah.
And then if you go to blue, no profiles. It didn't change.
That can't be right.
That can't be right. Yeah, right? Because you just saw me save those. I'm on blue, no profiles, and this doesn't look any different.
You're right.
What is going on here, folks? Let's go back and double check. This one says no profiles, and the profiles are turned on. So I did something wrong.
That could be it.
That could be it. It could be it. It could be that the one that says no profiles. Oh, you know what it is? It's the opposite. I was editing the one that says no profiles is actually the one with profiles. So if that's not confusing for you folks, if it says no profiles, then that means that's the one, that one has profiles.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Can you remember that?
That happens to me all the time when I like duplicate something and then I do all the changes to the new one and then it's misnamed.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just gonna go with it as is and keep moving on. So blue edges with section cut. See, now I've got too many. Blue edges. Oh, my problem is they're not being sorted in alphabetical order. So I'm like having to bounce around to find blue edges section. Where's that one?
Did you update the model?
Matt, of course I updated the model. In SketchUp, there should be one that is blue. If we go to list, it should say blue faces section. And then there one should be blue edges section. Where did blue edges section go? There isn't. Somehow did I delete that one?
It vanished.
Gosh darn it. Now I have to turn that section on, create a new one. Well, folks, I like to take these moments to thank everybody who's tuned in and watched with us at home and watch me sit here and get confused as to whether or not I saved a style. Appreciate you, everyone out there watching.
Hey, you're a stylish guy. You got a lot of styles, you know.
Also, if I'm wearing my shirt, it's a little bit darker because of the lighting setup, but if I stand in front of my model, then I'll disappear. That's my goal. Okay,
Yeah,
let's try this one last time because I want to move on. So it's either going to work or it's not going to work. So what I want to find is blue edges section. Blue edges section. There we go. That's what we're going to do. Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's do this. What I want to do is I want to trace the canopy and I want to put a little call out on it that says go to the next page because this is not a construction document page, but I do want to sort of call attention to this canopy a little bit. And then the other thing we can try doing really quick before we go into the canopy detail is we can look at what I want to do is take this SketchUp above, right? I want to copy this same viewport. I want to switch to my SketchUp above view. I'm going to paste this thing in place, which is just, it's just Command V. And then what I want to do is come over to my styles again, but we're going to go into our AO section. So our colored section. So we can look at whether we want to bring the color in on this one to just sort of differentiate it. But then of course, what we need to do is we need to turn off the background because if we're going to stack viewports, we want to make sure it's transparent. And we also want to go through and turn things like people, ground. I turn the building off and I think everything is already turned off except for the interiors. And everything should be turned off. Now, I don't know. At this scale, the problem is, I think at this scale, it's just not detailed enough. So I could look at, Matt, we could look at switching. I'm going to save this. Let's see what switching this to hybrid does. What hybrid is going to do is going to give me much crisper edges. Now, the thing is, I'm not worried about it displaying at a lower resolution because I know when I print it, I can set things like the image, the JPEG quality. I can change the page size, right? I can send it. I I can override and I can export it as hybrid even through the export process. So I can get those hybrid lines once I'm done. So to me, I have to decide, like, do I need to see those crisp, clean lines now or only when I export? Because the trade-off is I have to sit here and now come up with something smart to say as I'm waiting for it to convert the edges from raster to hybrid.
Yeah, well, and somebody was asking about that too. Sturkin says they're surprised how quick your model updates. It takes them a long time when they update it. So you could take a little bit of time to talk about, displaying your model in a way that doesn't take a long time to update to, if you want.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just did a video on it, but that's okay for this group. I think that I shouldn't assume that they've all seen it. But layout, I'm in 2024. Okay. So one big thing, this is a good kind of segue because we're exactly at an hour mark, is if you come over to the settings in layout, there is a few new things that are kind of interesting. One of them is an experimental graphics engine. Now that's an under the hood kind of stuff. So that sort of has to do with its source code. That's helping to boost performance as far as how it redraws elements on the page. Of course, layout, just like SketchUp, it's very visual. It renders everything. So unlike CAD, where you're just using wireframes, you're just doing vector line work, SketchUp is going to render all of that stuff, all those surfaces, all those shadows, all those edges, all those materials. So there are some improvements under the hood, but there's also another thing called draft mode. So if I enable draft mode, you can do a couple of settings. It means that basically it's not going to redraw all the information all the time. So far I've had draft mode off and it's been working fairly well. If you notice, I don't feel like there's been a huge problem. But you can see, watch what happens when I zoom in or if I pan. It's going to take all the rastered objects and all the things with line weights, thick line weights, shadows, styles, dashes, all these visual tricks that it uses your GPU and your CPU. It's going to just pause those for a moment. So if you do find that like things are starting to slow down at all, check out that draft mode setting. I have a keyboard shortcut, so I can kind of, if I want to come over here into settings and say always on, then I'm okay with that because I just hit Shift D and I can toggle draft mode on and off. Let me give you an example. I'm going to go back to this page. And if I enable draft mode, you can see that it keeps my vector line work, but it gets rid of like the plants and it gets rid of the thick profiles and it gets rid of all those like style settings. And so that way, if I wanted to just come over here and dimension this, which I will on the next page, we're gonna be doing some dimensioning. So that's cool because then I can switch between all these fancy styles that I have set up and then just kind of being able to see a nice clean version. So not only that's performance, but that's also just visual, so you can focus on particular elements as you're drafting. Did I do that justice, Matt? Do you think? Did I explain that well enough?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think the draft mode and the experimental graphics engine thing, which is in that performance dialog box that you had up, are new in 2024. But then you can also just keeping your model on raster instead of hybrid or vector. Especially if you have a lot of geometry, will help it so you're not waiting so long to get all that information redrawn to the screen. But yeah, we have a lot of thank yous in the chat for that.
Yeah, so thanks to the dev team and Trent specifically. If anyone knows, has met Trent he goes to Basecamp, right? I believe he's there. So he's a great guy. He's kind of quiet, so he's not like us where he likes to just talk about layout all the time, but he's really an instrumental member of the team who helps get these things implemented. So shout out. Thanks, Trent. I just moved my viewport. I did that. Shouldn't have done that. What I want to do is I'm going to put that fade layer back in there, and I want to look at sort of how to pop the color, whether it makes sense to pop the color on this one or whether we want to wait and just do that on a special. We're going to go and do some design detailing of just like an exploded axo of just the canopy to show how the canopy construction comes together. And then we're going to do that in just sort of a more of a focused way. So we can look at the canopy by itself with plan view, elevation view, axo, exploded axo. We're going to combine those. We're going to do our second hour. And we're just going to give the canopy a little bit of love. So,
yeah, very good. Oh, speaking of the canopy, Nick says he hopes that the canopy is being built somewhere without earthquakes and hurricanes.
Oh yeah, this is good. I'm glad somebody brought that up. This is not necessarily a great design structurally. So there's going to be some definitely some reinforcement and probably some cost cutting. You know, when it gets value engineered, it's not going to look like this at the end of the day. But while we're still in SketchUp conceptual land, we get to play and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, you can dream.
Yeah, a guy can dream, can he? So here I have a layer that I set up in this template called text and graphics. So text and graphics is one where I always have this on the top. So unlike SketchUp, we don't call them layers anymore. We call them tags because tags only control what is turned on and what is turned off. And layers, because you're in 2D now, so you can layer stuff on top, right? That's the difference between tags and layers. I know that some people still wished that we called SketchUp tags layers. I'm not going to go debate that, but I will say that we do need layers in layout because we are in 2D. So I can bring that up to a different layer. I want to bring that up to the top. So if I do any line work, graphics, callouts, text, annotations, all of those want to go to the top. So if I put on something like a fade layer, and I want to fade back, you know, the buildings or something like that, I can do that. This one here, I think is maybe too much now that I'm looking at it. You know, wait, why is this opacity? Okay, there it is. Thanks. So in this case, you know, I may want to just push it. I may want to just push that a little bit back, or I might want to say, you know what, actually, the color. Oh, do I have more than one? Is that why? Okay, there we go. I could say, well, the color is enough to differentiate this, or I could push this up even more and say, you know what? No, this is about the canopy. I want to celebrate that. So Matt, what do you think? I do want to bring that, while you're thinking of your answer, I do want to bring this bar here, which was, this was my thicker bar. That should be, that's not a SketchUp model, so that should be moved to text and graphics. And then that way, anything I draw on top will sit on top.
Very nice.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'd say let's celebrate the canopy.
All right.
I'm here for the canopy opening party or something. I don't know. But yeah, I gotta say,
You're always
like,
trying
no
to,
offense to those buildings, but the canopy is the coolest part of
you're
this.
always trying to rush me along. Okay. Just kidding. Okay. So let's do this then. Let's move on. We kind of established the style process. We've established the layering that we're going to do sort of as, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to create some graphics. Now we have everything we need. So let's do this. First thing I need to do, just out of habit, I'm just going to call this canopy detail. Because that's what we want to do. We want to kind of spend some time and give this some. Any questions or shout outs, any concerns while as I'm transition from the big picture to like details? It's all good?
No, yeah, all good. Ahmad says maybe using layers in SketchUp can help eliminate Z-fighting. I think that's just the idea of layers, is that in 3D, layers don't really make sense because layer implies like an order, and if it's occupying the exact same space, how would you know which one is on top of each other? You know what I mean? So anyways, that's just 3D versus 2D, like you were saying about whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. Nick
I was waiting for someone else to answer, Matt, because I'm like I'm thinking of like what my next steps are here. So yeah, no offense. You know, I like it. I think you're posing. I took it as you're posing the question to the audience. But if you're asking me, then let me know.
Oh no, yeah, I'm just chatting here. Nick's saying he's picturing a Jackie Chan movie where he jumps from the building onto that canopy. So maybe this is like a stunt show, you know, kind of coordination model here.
Now, I normally don't do this, but I am going to just use LayOut. You notice I've been zooming in and just letting the, I think I'm just going to, I'm not going to go back to SketchUp for this. Sorry, Matt, change the subject, but that would be awesome. Jackie Chan didn't he like break his leg one time jumping from the building?
Probably, yeah, probably more than once.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knock, excuse me, I'm gonna knock the background out of this one. And we are going to look at, I wanna turn the cars off for this one. So I'm gonna override my tags. I'm gonna turn cars because this is not the part of the conversation. And then I also wanna look at whether or not, the section cut won't help me though in this one, will it? Because the other option here is that we could go, I can add a section cut here. Section. Oh, I can't add the section, can I? Why can't I override with my section? It's because I'm using a different scene. Yeah. So therefore, the section isn't saved to that scene, right? Because the scene doesn't have the section turned on. The scene itself needs to have sections active in order for it to show up. So,
Right.
All right. That's okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's use our little blue edge line work, and then let's set a scale to this. So Matt, I'm going to quiz you again. Let's see, I want to move this over to, I'm going to take preserve scale off. You could probably see, but just by looking at it and take a guess. I want to do half the page. I want to do a diagram on half the page where I do an exploded axo, and then I want to do a plan and an elevation on one page. So I want to do all my diagramming on one page. I'll try and zoom in so everyone can see it, so I can stay zoomed in. Okay, so this one I need to show, we need to show, because it's an axonometric and it's orthographic, we can show this one to scale. So let's go ahead and set this one to a scale. Should we do the same scale, 1 to 30?
Absolutely.
There it is. I think we should go with that. Let's go with the same scale that we did on our overall elevation. That would make sense, because if we were using scale bars and stuff, we could just use the same one. For this one, I'm going to turn the ground off, and you tell me what you think. What do you think about turning the ground off?
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
because it kind of floats? I like it. I like white space around things. Like, do you know what I mean? When you have the ground on there, like, because it's about the canopy. So let's. It's not about the block anymore. So let's do that.
Sure. Let it breathe. Yeah.
Let it breathe. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the trick. When I say I'm trying to avoid going back into SketchUp too many times, I have another file, which is, I didn't tell you about. I'm kind of being sneaky here.
We're pulling the completed turkey out of the oven.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, and if everyone just looks away for 1 minute. No, I have another file for the canopy, because I had one where I built it in a separate file. And the reason for doing that was because we did iterations. We did a bunch of different versions of it. And so it wasn't only until when we liked one that we were happy with it that we put it in the model. So the canopy was built as a separate model. So that's why I have it as a separate model. So now I have to figure out where that is. And I think that's it. So I would like to talk about how this was built, but I'm going to have to save that for a different video, because there are some fun techniques in this. So teaser, teaser.
Yeah, keep an eye. Oh, subscribe if you don't already. If you're looking forward to that video that Eric's gonna subscribe.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Hey, hit that like button on this video too if you like. I feel like we don't do that enough on our channel. Is ask people to hit the like button. And also subscribe, of course, so you don't miss great upcoming content from Eric.
Okay. Yes, always cool stuff coming out. So I've got this file here. It's by itself. I'm just going to go ahead and take this whole thing. And I know this may not be the best way to do it, but just to keep things moving along quickly, I'm going to group this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this and I'm going to place it back into my original file. So I'm going to pretend like, let me just turn some things off here, just to make this a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and paste this. I don't think I can paste it in place because I don't think they share the same model space. What do you call that? Not axis, but orientation, location.
Yeah, all the above. Shouts to the people who already liked the video. Hey, you're number one in my book.
Yeah, I love our community. Got some cool peeps out there. SketchUp, speaking of that, while I'm waiting for this to load, I love the diversity. So like when I created this model, it's sort of designed to like allow you to see yourself in it anywhere you want. So, I like plants. I want to do the landscaping. It'd be cool to figure out what kind of plants would grow in this area. I'm a structural engineer. I'd like to figure out how to build this impossible thing that he designed. I'm an architect. Like this building is crappy. I could build a better one. Like these are the kind of fun things where like when we're working on this stuff, figuring out how you can kind of insert yourself into any point in the process. Process, as they say, my Canadian friends that are watching with us.
Thanks for the clarification. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay, yeah. So, so speaking of process, this kind of explains, like, kind of really roughly, you know, how what I was doing here, which was I started with a plane, and then I came in and then sculpted the plane, and then ran from contours, and then reran. This is the 2-second version of. I said I wouldn't go into detail, but then ran Topo Shaper, because Topo Shaper gives you a nicer triangulated mesh, it gives you a quad mesh, and then you unhide the quad mesh, and then you get the triangles better compared to Sandbox. Sandbox's triangulation is sometimes you'll get triangles going in different directions. But when you quad mesh it, you get sort of a cleaner mesh. And then from there, use joint push pull and Enroth pipe in order to be able to give the lattice work between the triangles structural integrity. So let's do that. Let's take that and let's bring that. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to put this on its own tag because I want to be able to disable it in the other views. So I'm going to call this S-axo, and that's just kind of a key for X exploded axo is what we're going to do. And then find wherever I placed that tag. It's right there. Okay. So now when we go back in the layout, that sort of process of how it was built will show up, and then I can go into a little bit of detail about. We have plenty of time, Matt. Just saying.
We got all the time in the world.
We have plenty of time. We're going to do plan, elevation, exploded axo, and we're going to add in some callouts and some dimensions and some annotations. I think we can do all of that in 45 minutes.
Hey, you're in Pacific, man. You got hours.
I know, exactly. Depending on what time, I can just... Some people say they should just keep going. They don't like us like stopping at a 2-hour mark. They're like, dude, if you've got more to show, just keep going. We would have to have intermission though, because I'd want to take like a snack break, you know, at some point.
Fire up some more coffee or something.
Yeah, coffee break. So what I'm doing is I'm reloading this now, and I think what it's doing is because, I don't know why it's taking so long, probably because I changed everything to hybrid, and that's why I say, like, use draft mode, and then use that hybrid override, that hybrid export. So when you go to export, it exports in hybrid mode. And I'll show you, later at the end, I'll show you what I mean by that.
I think that is defaulted to on nowadays too, right?
I think that defaults to on. I think so you can stay in raster. The point that I'm trying to make is stay in raster, folks. Like, it's okay. The only reason why you might not want the rasters, because if you zoom in close and you can't find that edge, that would be the only thing. Like, but it will snap, even if it looks like it gets a little pixelated when you get in close. It will still find and snap to that corner. So don't worry about it. All right, this is one I want to turn plants off again because I don't like seeing that the white boxes that are for representing the climbing vines. And why are they still there? Matt, do I have 2? I hate when stuff, Matt. Oh, there, no. Oh, I see why. Because I have 2 plant layers now, because when I brought the canopy in, it brought the canopy plants in, so I was turning the canopy plants off. And don't, as Homer would say. So what I want to do actually is I want to copy this. I want to paste this viewport in place, right? Because remember, that's the whole stack, the whole reason why we went through all this effort. And this is one where I'm going to try doing it with AO, and I want to try seeing if I can turn all the stuff off. And in this case, I would want to make sure those plants back on. So I want to turn things like I want to leave the furniture on. Unfortunately, I do have to leave the furniture on because I put the planters and the chairs at the same tag, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But I'm going to turn people off. Oh, you can't really see it. It's behind my head. I'm just toggling. I'm tag overriding these. So I'm going to toggle some things off, and then on this one, I want to make sure that my plants are turned on so I can get that nice pop of green. And then this also might be one where I would come in here and grab my fade, and I would come in here and see what that looks like. It says, oh, I see why. It's my fade's already on. Something that's actually kind of cool, but a little bit tricky with layout. So a little segue here. it remembers layer states per page. So if someone's brand new to layout, you'll notice that I'm like copying the faded layer back and forth. But point is that if I have that fade tag and I duplicate a page, it's going to stay on. So here I've turned it off, but here it stays on, and here it stays on. So it remembers that the fade tag, you can see here, you can see right where I'm pointing here. If you look at the little eyeball icon.
Pro.
Yeah, exactly.
There, yep.
Yep, and then if you go here, you can see that eyeball icon turns off. So it does remember. Now that's a good and bad thing. Bad thing means that I keep thinking it's not actually in the page, and then I go and copy and paste another one in. But good as in if you remember that, you can just decide to toggle it on and off. So how many fades? Okay, I have 2 fades. I only need 1. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get rid of, that's too much. So what do you, and also I have to make sure that this sits at the top. So move to SketchUp above, and I think we're just gonna go with that.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Does that look good? It's like Parmesan cheese or pepper at the restaurant. Say when, and then you just say when. Should I go back the other way? Okay, say when.
Yeah, take some off my salad. Okay, that's about good.
Okay, well that's right about 50%. So let's go with that. All right, so now this is to scale. This is where if we wanted to lock everything, we could very quickly. You can see here, I'm locking it in the layers tab. So the only one that's not locked. Oh, I have some guides too. Speaking about turning things off and on, I have some guides that are in here, but they haven't been showing because that's turned off. I don't think I'll need those. If I do want to see those, I might use those guides because it tells me that this is, if I wanted to keep this constrained, you know, if I wanted to keep a clear zone or something like that, I might use those, but I think we're okay for now.
Okay.
Okay, save. So let's go ahead and put some annotations. Or no, actually, you know what, Matt, we should do? Before we annotate, we should go ahead and do the plan view and the elevation view. So that we have all of our SketchUp models and stuff done, and then we can annotate. And then we can sit back and just kind of relax for a little bit.
Yeah, love it. Let's bring those in.
Okay.
Or let's you bring it in, and I'll just sit here and watch it. I'm
I know,
the voice
Matt,
of the
you're
people.
not.
I'm just like an audience member. You know, I'm here. I'm basically in the front row, but they gave me a microphone.
Yeah, I know. I keep wanting to ask for more of your help, and then I'm like, oh wait.
Well, you can ask for my help in telling me when to.
No, I am asking for your help.
Capacity to.
Yeah, you're helping me think through things. So I can't actually have you do the work. You just get to help me make decisions, and then I'll do it.
Yeah.
So you're the brains behind this operation, and I'm just a hand.
Yeah.
So one way to look
I'm
at
like
it.
Rick Rubin. You know, I don't have any. Have you seen that interview clip with Rick Rubin where he's like, I can't play any instruments. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
don't have any musical talent at all. But
apparently it works for him. Yeah, he's great. I have his book, which is The Creative Act, A Way of Being. So here's a problem. It's not really a problem. It's I just have to take this canopy and rotate it. So what I'm going to do is just hold shift. And what's cool about this, oh, that didn't really work, did it? So what I'm going to do is instead of putting the gizmo, I'm just going to type in, just like in SketchUp, I'm going to hands off, type in 90, hit enter or return, and then there you go. And it's on preserve scale, so I don't like, my OCD says keep your viewports nice and tight, folks. So what I'm going to do is bring my viewport in nice and tight. And this is where our plan view is going to go, and I'm going to change the style. Again, sorry, folks, I created too many styles, so we just have to roll with it. Here's the thing, Matt. We're just looking down at it.
Sure, that's a plan.
Yeah, that's a plan. See. Yes, yeah. I know, but I'm not finished. Okay, so we're looking down at it and we're seeing the glass. But the question is, when you look down at a canopy, is it more important to look at the top of the canopy or to be looking down at what the canopy covers? Meaning, what's the program for the people that are going to be using the space?
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. The stuff that people are actually going to interact with versus you know, although Jackie Chan might, have an interest in seeing the very top of the canopy.
I know. I wish he was here. I'd ask him some questions. Now I have one already here. I have a section plane that was already here from when I built this model. So obviously you missed that step, but we've already done this together, so you get the idea. I'm going to set up a new scene. I'm going to toggle that off, keyboard shortcut, right? So what I'm going to do is create a new scene where I'm looking at just the stuff underneath it. I know it's not sort of the most amazing layout, which is just put some tables and chairs under there, but hey, that's what we're working with. So what I'm gonna do is, don't judge the design yet. We're just gonna go into documentation. What I wanna do is add this as an extra scene, and I'm just gonna call this canopy plan. And the reason why is because now I've got one where I've got the section that's cutting through the canopy. I had to do that because in order for the section to show, not only do I need, again, we talked about this earlier, not only does it need to be applied to a style, but the active section needs to be applied to a scene, so it knows which section to show. So let me double check to make sure that this, yep, there it is. So that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here into layout, and what we're going to do is I'm going to let's just make a copy of this for now. Oh, another fun thing, I learned this recently. You can use the modifier tool in layout with the move tool, and it makes a copy just like in SketchUp. So if you hold the modifier and the little plus sign shows up and you hold shift, you can just make a copy just like that. I thought that's awesome.
Yeah, very nice.
I don't know why it took me that long. I mean, I did a course on it in SketchUp Campus, and I don't know if that's a new functionality or if when I did the course, I didn't read the manual.
It's one of those things that and like arrays that I like expect it to work like that in other softwares too, and then it doesn't, and I'm like, what the heck? You know what I mean? You get used to copying stuff with move, and then whatever.
Hey, question for you, Matt. Sorry, you just don't take this the wrong way, but when you're talking, like the back of my brain starts, ideas start coming.
You zone out.
No, you're like stimulating. You're giving me things to think about. The point is that I was thinking, how we did draft mode just a few minutes ago, and now I'm sitting here and waiting for my SketchUp model to update. Now that I've got more and more views, it has to update all of these views. Do you think if I did draft mode first and then updated the model, do you think it would go quicker because it's not having to redraw everything? Or do you think it's going to do it anyway? Because once I turn draft mode off, it still has to redraw everything.
It's worth a shot.
Or do you think it's, okay, well, I was just, because if you go Shift D first, and then you go right click, update SketchUp model, I was wondering.
Yeah, try that next time.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch from scenes, we are going to add, excuse me, our scene that we just created. It's called Canopy Plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to reset, let's just reset everything. I see there's a little button that says reset all, and I think that's probably the best one to use. It's almost like get out of jail free card, it just wipes everything. So what I want to do in this case is I do want to turn the ground off. Okay. And I do want to turn people off because people are 2D. So the question I have here is speaking of draft mode, actually see, draft mode shows you the edges of your viewport, which is actually really helpful when you're trying to get your viewports to line up exactly. It doesn't look right though, does it? I did something.
Well, didn't you just change the outline of that viewport?
I did, but I said preserve scale. Okay, well, I have these little dots here. So if I grab the center point of the column and then I line it up with the center point of that dot, because that's where it connects with the canopy, then that gets me close enough. What I'm trying to do here, though, is figure out, it makes sense to just redraw the canopy boundary and then get rid of, oops, don't give it a fill, give it a stroke. Do you know what I mean? And I'll give you an example. If I get rid of that completely, then what we have is we can see where the columns are. And I'm going to change the style of that to blue. Oh, crappy crap. Oh, there it is. That's kind of cool. Yeah, no, that's probably the best one. It's probably the best one because it shows, it's super clear. Do you see what I mean, Matt? Where, like I liked the glass, but because I don't have the ability to make it really opaque, maybe it's better unless I show two plans. One would be top view and one would be ground level. So you're seeing it. All right, moving on. I'm an executive decision. I'm just going to go with this because I think it's more important to show, because I want to show the columns because I want to dimension them. So let's do that. And then if we want to bring that in, and maybe we can bring that plan view because it shows the glass, which is cool. All right, moving on.
Yeah. Oh, we had a question here on LinkedIn. Raphael says he's never used LayOut. Is it to set up plans and sections to scale?
Yes, it is documentation. So when you are in SketchUp, right? For anyone who's not used LayOut, this is LayOut. So this is like if you're coming from a CAD background, this is the equivalent of paper space. So model space would be where your draft mode. And then, so the term drafting in CAD is kind of confusing because you could be drafting your plan and then you could be drafting your construction document sheets, which is where you put a bunch of stuff on top of your drawing. So things like if you want to put a planting plan, you're going to put hatches, or you're going to put your legends, or you're going to put your callouts, you're going to do your quantities, you're going to put your page number, you're going to put your title block. All that stuff goes into paper space. LayOut's equivalent of CAD's paper space. What we're going to do is it's documentation. So now what we want to do is we can do axonometrics or orthographics, elevation, section, plan. Again, we're going to put text and dimensions and things like that. So that is the plan.
Very good. Thank you.
Literally the plan. That's the plan. So what I'm going to do is look at, I did not create a scene for this, but I do need to probably re-rotate that back the way that it was. How about -90? There we go. And then I do want to probably oh man. Okay, what I'm going to do is probably not want to use the section cut. I probably want to use my AO style because in this case, I actually do want to see the entire canopy. So this is not the front view. I want to go with the side view, right? That's kind of what we're doing here.
Oh yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Matt.
Anytime. Okay. Andrew agrees that documentation definitely has a graphic design quality to it. It's definitely a different mindset of like modeling, 3D stuff versus like laying stuff out on the page. Definitely a unique skill.
Yeah, to be able to think about things like composition, color, scale. That's why like sometimes I'll turn my guides on and I'll look at like, okay, this fits 50-50 or this is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So even though I know that in construction documentation, it's not the same as doing like a really cool poster but who knows? Like with SketchUp, the cool thing is that we got people doing all kinds of cool things. So who knows? It's all about where this is going ultimately and more importantly, who I think it's going to, because that would dictate how much detail I go into, what annotations I put on, whether I put this all on one page or whether I put this on multiple pages. Right now, I said in the beginning, we're just playing around. What we want to do is sort of push more of the aesthetic of communicating our SketchUp model in a construction document format without actually taking it to like a construction document kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So blue non-AO. So if I do the blue non-AO, there we go. There's my one where I wanted to get rid of those profiles. I probably want to copy that, paste it in place, go back to AO, and then turn everything, go into tag overrides, and turn everything off except my plants. So, okay. Oh, I do have to keep my furniture on. I made a mistake. Nope, I'm going to fix it. It's not worth it. I'm going to fix it. So folks, you can see that I've got these plants here, and they sit within these little, because they're components, right? They're these column components. So they sit within these groups. I have the vines separate, but I built the plants to sit inside of these because they're components. And I wanted the vines to be different because I would rotate them. So, but now I'm kind of thinking, well, that doesn't really work, because if I turn, I'm going to have to take these and I have to move these to a different tag. Because the reason why is because right now they sit on a furniture tag, and that's not what I want. So what I'm going to do is just create a new tag for these, and I'm just going to call these seat walls, because that's what they are. So when I built this originally, I don't know, I wasn't anticipating this, and so now it's okay. We just switch that to the seat walls tag and save it. Now we get to try that little trick, Matt. I get to try to go to draft mode and then update, or the other option is go in and get rid of. I don't really want to get rid of anything, but I put this in. Is this the one I put in? Yeah, I put this one in hybrid because I wanted those clean edges to show when I'm in the preview. So draft mode, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to update the SketchUp model. And then we just get to chat for a minute. I know I'm blocking all this stuff, so if anyone if I'm pointing to something, like if I'm really pointing out my pages and it's really important, just let me know.
It's helpful that you're right there. That way you can just point right to it. You don't have to.
It is. It's more helpful when I point to like my tags, because if I want to like be specific and be like a glaze, guys, like that one I want you to really pay attention to.
Yeah, when the cursor is not enough, you got to really get. You need like a green screen that's your entire room, and then that way you could like walk across the screen and.
Oh, you know what I need?
Climb up a ladder and start pointing at toolbars.
I need one of those, not like a foam finger. That would be too hokey, but like maybe like a highlight box, on a stick, and I can just like hold it up, or an arrow, like a big arrow, and I could like highlight certain things and be like, call your attention to here. Oh wait, that doesn't work, does it though? Because look, my camera doesn't go any higher.
That's the thing. You need a green screen that covers your entire.
Well, Matt and I will figure this green screen sitch offline. We'll let's go ahead and double check now. I should be able to turn my furnishings if I did this correct. I should be able to turn all my furniture off in the tag override. Now, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to turn the furniture off. I wanted the blue furniture, but I didn't want the colored furniture. See, the colored one is I only want the plants because I made the brilliant idea of thinking I was saving myself some time by using textures instead of using geometry. And now I have to go back in and layout and say, well, if I want those green plants to pop in my blueprint, my diazo style, then that's a fancy word. It's an old school word for blueprint. Then now I have
very fancy.
Yeah. Okay.
Very cool. No, that looks good.
Okay,
Kyle
cool.
had a question about the size of the SketchUp model. What can you check real quick to see how big the
Sure.
SKP is?
I just saved a new version, so let me double check and see which one. I want to make sure I'm showing you. Okay, so if we go to just so you believe me, 15.3 megabytes. So it has, but if you want to see, if you're asking more about how big, as in how, like the model itself, then we go into model info, and it will tell you under statistics that we are under 1 million polys. So this one was, when I built it the first time, when I had all full geometry plants, that was the original intention. But then we were sharing this model with people. And we said, well, you know what, if they're going to be viewing it wherever they're viewing it from, we don't know what their internet speed is, we don't know what their hardware is like. Let's go ahead and let's take a step to sort of make a smaller version of our model. And that was one of the things we did, where we reduced the amount of context in the background, we reduced the amount of plant material. And that way, when we share this with everybody, we don't have to worry so much about what their particular hardware is. I mean, I'm spoiled. I'm using iMac Pro, and so I move really fast, and I forget that sometimes people, not everybody drinks as much coffee as me and like has to go at like a really fast pace. That was my
Sure.
This was me drinking coffee, by the way, because I don't have that's what happens. My hands shake.
Yeah. When you tried that last model update, did you do the draft mode thing first or no?
Yeah, and it took the same amount of time. So draft mode,
Okay.
I learned something there. The draft mode doesn't change if it does take a minute to refresh everything, depending on the way your thing is set up. Its draft mode
Hmm.
doesn't change that. There we go. Boy, you guys, got some long comments in there. I love it. Let's go ahead and let's keep going. Let's go ahead and, since this is just a small little thing, I know it's going to take a second, but I am going to take the effort to put this in as vector. And the reason why is because even though I have to wait for it to render, it took about 3 seconds here. It's just when I get in really close, it's just going to make it easier for me. I think it's going to look nicer. And then now that I switched those tags, I'm going to get rid of the tables and chairs, because what I want to see here, and I'm going to get rid of the plants, because what I really want to see here is I only want to see structurally, these elements.
Hmm. Yeah, I did have one comment about.
Okay, so now on a dimension. Now let's get into dimensioning. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, somebody was saying that if you could add the glass top to that.
Oh, I could do is I
He
could
says
put it.
add the
I could
glass
put
top,
it.
fade it with a translucent rectangle, and that'll tell the story better. Well, that actually works pretty good.
I put it underneath. But the other thing I can do is I can turn. I do have on its own tag. I have the actual glass, but I don't think that actually helps me. That actually makes it worse.
Mm.
Oh.
But could you do that same thing with putting the rectangle in between those two layers and fading it a little bit?
I could create a new style where I have a different line where the line weight is lighter. But then I'm going back into SketchUp and creating a new style. I can put the fade layer in between there. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what they were saying.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, you don't have to do that. That was just a suggestion. But
well, if it's fast, I want to explore it, and if it's going to be like a big thing, then I might say, oh no, let's not. I already know. Like if I think I know the answer, but if I don't know the answer, I'll say, yeah, let's find out. Now, it doesn't make sense logically to have the glass under the mounds, but I think stylistically, it's actually kind of cool because it's almost creating, I think when you glance at it, you're seeing the glass. Let's go with that. Dimensions, folks. Hey, dimensions. That's a great plug for our conference coming up in November. And I didn't even mean to. I was talking about dimensioning this plan view.
look at that. It all comes together. But yeah, what Eric's talking about is that 3D Basecamp, which is a SketchUp user conference that happens every 2 years, is going to be part of Trimble Dimensions, which is Trimble is the company that owns SketchUp as a product. So it'll be in Las Vegas in November. The information, I'm punching in the chat, here's the website, is there. So that's the best place to go for SketchUp learning and for seeing all the cool people in the community, what they're using, breaking boundaries and setting records and doing really cool stuff. So that is the place to go for SketchUp if you're looking to start from scratch, or if you're looking to up level your existing workflow. 3D Basecamp is the place to do it, and it'll be in November. Get your tickets now.
I'll be there.
Eric and I will both be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if that's worth anything, we can talk about layout together, or if you or not, you can tell me just like about where you live, where you're coming from, or what you do for a living. We don't even have to talk about SketchUp. We were just saying on our chat this morning that we talk about SketchUp an awful lot, and that it's okay that we talk about things like kids and sports and other things. But oh man, look at that. Now, was that bad dimensioning or was that bad modeling? 144 and 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead and cheat this because layout, actually, you know what, Trent, if you're listening, can you give me a precision that rounds it to the nearest 6 inches? Because in my CAD days, we would sometimes always push it to the nearest 6 inches. And that was just a default thing because we're working at a much larger scale. And that level of accuracy, we don't want it to the nearest inch, because then you have everything that's a bunch of weird numbers. So if you're listening, let's push that to the nearest 6 inches. Oh, and give me to the nearest foot, please. Until then, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to override it by going 144. But I don't like that. Here's why I don't like that, is because what I'm doing is I'm breaking the connection to the SketchUp model. So it's still technically connected to the SketchUp model. So if I was to change the scale of my drawing, it would, but that number wouldn't change. So that auto text that you saw, if I undo that, whoops, let's go redo that. Edit, redo, edit, redo. Okay, so if I go in here and that number right there, you can see when you get those two brackets, that's auto text. Auto text means it's pulling the dimension from the model. So if I type in my own number, 144 foot 0 inches, because I want like a nice round number, then yeah, I broke that. So
Right.
So one thing while you were talking, thanks for that plug, Matt. One thing that what I was doing was I was setting my dim style. So you can set your dim style before, or you can set your dim style after. For example, if I wanted to change this one to red, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at that and thinking, oh no, that's terrible. Then I might want to go style. I can click match that one and then paste. Now that's kind of annoying. I like to have my dim style set before. So if I go dim, I set the color, I set the font, I set my start arrow, my end arrow, I set all of these things. I set my gap and my precision and my units. So I set all that first, and then when I come over here and I dim every single time I dim, see, I'm gonna go 86. I'm just gonna round down.
Here's a question. I don't know if you know it. SweetRT Cool asks, when do you settle on speakers and agenda for 3D Basecamp? Do you know?
That's a great question. We have settled on speakers. That's happening this week. So all this stuff happens in the background. So just because you don't see it all doesn't mean we're not doing it. It just means that we haven't made it public yet. So I can't say for sure, but I'm going to say it should be coming fairly soon to the website. And I know that's probably hard for some people to book a ticket and book travel when you don't even know who the speakers are, but I can guarantee you're going to get all, if not most, of the big names that you've seen in previous. I won't name any. I don't want to call anyone out and put them on the spot, but all the familiar faces and some of the SketchUp celebrities, they love coming back and speaking. And so, but at the same time, we also like new stuff too. So we always look at like, where are the new voices and where's the new innovations and what are the new technologies that we didn't have in 2022. So I'll say that we're going through that process right now and we're finalizing it. So I would hope, fingers crossed, to have that put online soon. Just can't give you a date.
Very good, thanks.
Yeah.
Do SketchUp celebrities imply that there's also SketchUp paparazzi? And will they be at the event?
Will they be? That's a great question. I'm going to talk to our event planner. I hear that she doesn't have enough going on with planning the entire conference. So having some sort of red carpet arrival, I'm sure she would be more than happy to do that for us. Matt, great suggestion. I'm going to tell her that Matt
suggested that I'll have a camera, so maybe I can be.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you're part of the planning. You're part of it too, so you know exactly. Hey, that's funny. This is 75 and this is 57. It's almost like I meant to do that. I'm just playing with numbers here because we're just having some fun. And I'm not going to do too many more of these. I'm just going to I just wanted enough to kind of make it feel, starting to touch on sort of that documentation look and feel of having some numbers and some call outs. And I'm also looking at our time, and I was like, oh, well, maybe that's why I shouldn't go into too much detail here. I want to put a dim on these. If I can, I want to get one. You can see what's happening here. Sometimes SketchUp layout doesn't know whether it's dimming paper space. So like, for example, if I dim here, you can say it's only 1 inch. But if I dim here, if I snap it to the model and make sure that it's snapped, that same space is not 1 inch, it's 44 to 45. So when you are dimming, just be careful that you are connecting to the model. And then here's a little trick. If you just double click, if you know that dimension should be the same, just double click it and it'll give you that. Again, I'm going to overwrite it. 43 feet. Oh, they don't put by default, SketchUp doesn't put the dash in there. So if you don't overwrite it, you can't get that style. 43 feet, 0 dash 0 inches. Here's a question for the chat. Should you dash in between feet and inches? Or if you're metric, you just put a point, just put a decimal point, don't you?
So you're saying you're a dash man?
Yeah. Yeah, don't go out to eat with me. I'm a dine and dash man. I'll leave you with the, no, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. So here
Sure.
you can rotate the text. So if you want it to be vertical to kind of emphasize sort of the verticality of the space because I'm getting close to my diagram, or we can flip it and go horizontal. I did turn my text and graphics off because I was trying to make sure that I was not snapping to my text and graphics. I can also take these because I can group those, copy, paste it. Because I've broken that link with my SketchUp model to begin with, by overriding the numbers, I can just go in and bring those back in that way. So I'm showing this twice. I don't know if I need to show it twice. I think that's the cool thing about showing the plan view and the elevation view. In elevation, I wouldn't want to see the length of the entire thing. I'd want to see the vertical. And then in the plan view, I'd want to see sort of the spacing and how it relates, what the relationship is. This one here is one of those things where it's like, I'm going to turn my fade back on, and then I might come in here and grab something like that. And then just because I know I'm looking at the time, and maybe you could throw some dashes on this. And again, this is just playing around. Once I like it, it looks good. Oop, that's hard. I don't want to do that. I want to move it. Sometimes I just have to hold shift and I can move it that way. So where's the corner on this thing? Oh, the corner changes because when it was a flat rectangle, the corner was up here. And when I sculpted it, the corner drops. So I can't actually connect it. Yeah. So, but that corner stayed the same because I didn't really sculpt that one. And that one, maybe I don't even want that. Maybe this one just goes, it just connects there. And I don't know, maybe I want to fade that some more. I know that, fade. Reminds me of Mazzy Star. Fade Into You. That's a good song.
Sure.
Yeah. And now I'm debating whether or not I want to like cut the building off completely and almost make it look like, no, it's about the canopy. I don't know. Does that feel weird? Like if you feel like I gave it a haircut?
No, I think it's good. I mean, it's faded back enough that it's giving you some idea of what's going on back there, but it's not like you don't need to see all of it.
I mean, the other thing, if you really wanted to, you put the break lines, to kind of indicate that, yes, the building continues. But I broke it here intentionally. And if you want to see more of that building, go to this other page. Mm-hmm. So this is where I'm just going to come over here to my text. I might grab a legend just to kind of make this look like... so this legend is interesting. You'll see that I set these as auto text. So this legend is continuing its numbering.
Right.
Ooh, but how does 5, do I have to reset the numbering? Documents.
Yeah, that's a question I don't know the answer to.
Document setup, auto text sequencing. If I say renumber, AD, start at 1, increment 1 per page. That's interesting. I wonder if when I laid it out, I laid them out in the wrong order. I don't think so, though. So what I would do then is I would go through and I would take the time. So is there anything else in the chat? I mean, I just kind of been running with this, and we've just been kind of riffing and having some fun. But is there anything while we kind of get close to closing that somebody's like, you know what, this is what I was expecting to see. I didn't see it. Or, hey, I've been doing the same thing you tried doing and it's not working. Yeah, any sort of last minute kind of questions and concerns? Otherwise, I'm just going to sort of put a couple of call outs on this thing and call it.
Sounds good. Yeah, let us know in the chat. Yeah, as whenever we have dimensions on the stream, there's always the metric versus imperial conversation. That's what's going on right now. But yeah, besides that, let us know if you have any specific layout or workflow questions related to what Eric's showing today. And most people are saying that they would add the dashes for the on the dimensions there,
Add the dashes on the dimensions.
like in between the foot and inch.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I asked the question about whether you break a foot in inches. Okay. So here we have some fun things that we didn't get to, which that's okay. That's okay. I have to remind myself that unless these streams become longer, we kind of leave off wherever we leave off. So one thing that I want to point out though is that we're not limited to what we're able to set up. Okay, so here's this floating canopy. So now that I added a tag, right, you got to go in and turn that tag, that AXO tag. You got to go in and say, no, turn that off. So we're not limited to what we have either in our SketchUp model or what we're willing to draw from scratch. Like there's a really cool, I'll kind of wrap up by just throwing some stuff from the scrapbook in here. Like I know that there's some trees in elevation. So if I wanted to come in and grab a tree, for example, that one, and then if I wanted to grab a color on that, oops, not a color fill, no fill, I want to do stroke, right? So you can see that tiny little tree. It's kind of cool. It's just kind of a quick way to add, like I didn't have trees in my model, and it's just kind of a cool way to add some stuff. Like if I wanted to add a car, I can do that. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that this is to scale. So your scrapbook elements are to scale as well. So if I wanted to open up the scale drawing tab, these trees are at 1 to 10, but I know my model is 1 to 30. So if I wanted to make that the scale of my model, I would go to 1 to 30. Problem is that's actually not a tree. That looks more like a shrub. So I would say actually a 1 to 10. So I have an exaggerated scale for a document like this could be better. Of course, you can also come in here and you can explode this, or you can remove the scale, and then that way what you get is you just get an object, in which case you can manipulate yourself. So if I wanted to mirror that, I could mirror that tree. If I wanted to use that modifier tool and copy that, again, I can just kind of play around. Whoops, I let go of the modifier. You have to hold the modifier as you're moving. A little bit different than SketchUp. Did it again. Why is it not doing it? Oh well, copy and paste works too. All right. So Matt, I don't know. What do you think? Did we do it?
Yeah, you did great.
So let's go through really quick. In 1 minute,
yeah.
in 1 minute, let's recap, folks. If you came late, okay, I'm going to give you the 1 minute summary version. Of course, you can always scrub back. This video is going to get posted to our YouTube channel under the live playlist. You can always go back and watch the whole thing. I know I talked a little bit fast. That's the coffee. Sorry. What we did is we started out with just playing about why is it important to have different kinds of styles in your model specific to what you want to see in layout later. And so that's why we spent a little bit of time in SketchUp, came in here and did this little warm-up exercise where we started stacking viewports and we started fading things. We could toggle things on and off. We could move things around. We have this so much control over what we're overwriting. And the coolest thing about this here, the coolest thing about all of this, as I'm kind of doing my recap, is if I go in and take this lady here and I say, that's not where I want her right here. Then all I have to do is save this, right? And as I'm doing it's going to take a second because it's going to have to refresh all of those, all the viewports now. Keep your eye on that little lady right there in the front of the viewport. So the reason why we're not going to something like Photoshop or we're not exporting vector graphics like EPS to Illustrator is that once you do that, once you leave SketchUp, the link between your model and your document, even in a conceptual diagram like I'm showing here, is broken. So the more not only can you do in SketchUp with anticipation of how you want to communicate your message later, the more benefit you'll have, but also the more that you can see the interrelationship or the interoperability between SketchUp and layout, then the more you can anticipate, well, what are my options in layout? And in this case here, I'm giving you a very simple example of, my manager comes in and says, that lady can't be there. She needs to move 3 feet over to the left. Well, the problem is if I was to export this 30 views, if I exported 30 views into an InDesign document, for example, or into a PDF, and you say, move that. to have to go back into all those Photoshop files and go re-export all those images. And then here you can see she has moved exactly where I want her. Not only in this view, but she's going to have moved in all of my pages. All that work that we did is preserved and saved. That's my big sales pitch. Do the work. Anticipate a few things up front in SketchUp. Make your life. Of course, there's a little bit of trial and error, and then when you get into layout, you're able to do some really cool stuff. So I'm going to pause there, and then let me see. I actually had the layout file that we had in the beginning, so I'm going to end. If I spent a little bit more time, if I gave when I'm talking, sometimes I move a little bit slower in a good way, but in a way like when it's just me playing around, I'm able to do some really cool things. And I hope that just kind of gives you all out there a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of inspiration to go get your hands dirty, give it a try yourself. So with that, I'm going to say thanks, Matt, before I wrap up. Anything else going on? Any other announcements?
Yeah, just bravo to you. Nice work, showing off all the different techniques and ways that you work to get these really cool looking final graphics. So definitely a lot of people, I'll chime in the same as echo people in the chat saying that this was really helpful and very cool, in-depth. Thank you for doing these more in-depth videos. Thank you. Layout's been a struggle. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, a lot of positive feedback. So good job by you, and good job by everybody, of course, in the chat. If you're still sticking around, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future videos.
Yeah. And who's up next week? We don't know. I don't know. It's we'll see. I know that we try not to double up. We try and bring fresh voices and fresh things. But hey, it also just depends on what's hot that week. What's going on this coming week?
I don't know. We'll figure something out. I think it'll be Aaron in the modeler seat next week. So yeah, look forward to that. Keep an eye out.
And since Aaron's not here, I'll
social platform of choice.
Yeah, and Aaron likes to say, we like doing these models. I'm going to quote him. He's not here. We like doing this kind of stuff, but we also like to make sure that we're showing the stuff that you want to see. So whether you leave that in the comment or whether you post it to the forum or you're doing it live here in the chat, of course, the comments will stay. You can always add a comment after the live stream ends. Let us know the kind of stuff that you want to see. If we missed something, if we misspoke, call that out. That conversation that we have helps us refine the stuff that we show you. So that's it. That's kind of all I have for today.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, to say that again, yeah, if you have anything you want to see modeled, whether it is layout or SketchUp, let us know. Sven, you had a suggestion earlier. I added that to our list. So thank you for dropping that in the chat. And we'll stay streaming for a little bit after we head out here so that you can drop any suggestions in there. And we do write those down and we keep a list of them. So yeah, we are, like you said, we like making these videos a lot, but we like them even more when they're showing something you want to see. So that's true.
All right. Well, thanks everyone again for joining us. And for those that stayed the whole time, for sticking it out. Hope you learned, like I always say, hope you learned at least one new thing today. If not, let me know. And we will say have a great Friday, whatever time it is, whatever you've got going on this weekend. Have a great one. Hope to see you back next week. Ready, Matt? I'm going to play some music.
Yeah, let's music it out. And yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. And have a great weekend, Eric.
All right. Thanks. You too, buddy. And I will see you next week. Cheers, everyone.